All right, here we are back again with another WizGun breakdown video. This is number 2 in the Mechantress series, the phase transition. This happens several different points in the fight. This is what she does when you initially attack her, and then also when you get her down to halfway. She does it a couple of different times too, just for grins, I suspect. But ultimately, it's the transition point into the second half of the fight, and then when the fight starts. So, just to give more breakdown here, like I said before in the melee video, overwhelmingly, I wanted the Mechantress to be best like representative and design theme through like trains and locomotives. And so, as she's charging up, we'll just go through what this all ultimately looks like first. And in this animation, you can really see a lot more of sort of the thing that drove the design in terms of like having the internal combustion aspect. Like if you like pay attention to her hat, for example, she's got that, the flame that comes out, and there's just all these sort of funky mechanical inner workings of how she operates. And so we'll sort of do this in sections here. I tend to break these down sort of into parts just to make it a little bit easier to manage. But here's just the charging element. And this here, a nice train element. I don't know, I'm not really sure why that's where it's at. I think it's possible just based on placement. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I honestly can't remember why I put that there. It seems like it would make more sense to put over here, but those days are over, so that is what it is, I guess. I totally forgot about this element, which I think is super cool. What a great sound. That, I don't know what that is. Probably. It sounds like some sort of sci-fi charge element that I probably just found in Soundly somewhere, but you got nothing better to do than watch me figure this out, right? Cool. Yeah, that's really cool. So the first layer of this, just a fire element for the top, fire coming out the top of her hat there, and I have a flanger on this that I believe is set. Yeah, I spaced it out in such a way that it follows the animation. And otherwise just OTT on that. That by itself sounds like this. Pretty uninteresting on its own. Same thing over and over again, but then we get into this here. Another fire track, but the tremolo just gives it a little bit more of like, honestly, it really just gives it a little bit more of the train element that is sort of, present throughout this whole character. And like on its own, especially spaced out, it's just a, burst, fire burst. And those together. Then we get into this one. This one's actually, this is just a steam blast. But once again, the flanger sort of set to follow. So it builds up. That's something that I tend to do with all of my characters, enemies specifically, and their designs of like their attacks and stuff, is buildups always have a buildup sound to them, or something is either climbing or dipping, depending on what kind of sound or attack it is, as sort of just like a player tell, like, an audio cue for how when something is going to be, how to time out your attacks or your dodges or whatever you're going to do. Make it a little bit easier. I don't know if that's ever actually worked for anybody, but I designed it hoping that it does. And that alone, that has a micro shift on it too, but all by itself sounds like this. There's just a little bit of a layer of high pitch sort of carry in that. Almost like a whistle, but that's why I picked it, because it does what I want it to do. This one here is just the ending. Went over that a little bit before I started this because it's neat. Now this one here is really interesting. So this on its own, it has sort of a stepped pitch effect on the envelope here. Something that's been really difficult for me to find as a car person is the sound of a turbo spooling up. Like, there aren't a ton of things in the world that spin as fast as turbos. I think, you could probably say maybe like 250,000 RPMs. And you hear them a lot in semi trucks. When they would take off, they've got that really high pitched thing that builds up. And they're incredibly difficult to, I imagine, at least, get recorded without engine noise because they are part of an engine. But having owned one for several years, it's one of my favorite sounds. There's just so much energy conveyed in the way that they operate. And so I really wanted to include that in the way that in the charge up here for the Mechantress. But it's like, how do I... Good luck getting your hands on a source recording of an engine turbo. And so what I ended up doing was going on YouTube and finding just like dyno videos. On a dyno is like it's basically a rolling road, so you park your car on it and you strap it down, and the wheels sit on a drum so that you can give it the beans, drive flat out, and it just spins the drum, and then it uses that drum to measure the horsepower output and stuff like that. And so I just found a bunch of different dyno videos of people taking like their 800 horsepower cars and putting them on dynos, and they floor it, and it just builds this turbo sound way up, and it's super loud and totally crazy. So I had to find one that I could manipulate in a way that made sense for how this works. And then I just ripped the audio out of the YouTube video, and I sort of, I twisted it around a bit. And I think if I had the full version of this, yeah. It's great, but I would love it if anybody wants to figure out a way to get a great recording of an engine turbo. By all means, let me know, I guess. And then on to the vocal layer. The vocals for all of the bosses. There's not a ton of vocals in WizGun, and it's always tricky when you're doing vocals for humanoid characters, because it's like, do I make them human? Do I make them sort of human? Do I just turn, is it just me going like, wah? I don't know. I find it to be kind of a complex sort of issue on how to know when to bring people in for stuff like that. So because the characters in this game are humanoid, but not just human, like the Mechantress isn't really like a person. Like, it's not like she goes home at the end of the day and takes off like the stovepipe hat and the tool belt and watches The Big Bang Theory with her cats. She's sort of human, but cartoonishly so. And so I wanted to keep whatever vocals I put on the characters to maintain, keep themselves in the realm of also being human-esque, but not just some person, shouting about whatever. And so the vocal track that I got for the Mechantress is another just woman screaming that I found in Soundly. And so I've got this break in here, but that's mostly just because of the way that the animation works. This is actually a 3-part animation with the beginning and then the middle that loops and then the ending. And so I put this break in here just to help separate it from the middle section of the 3-part animation. This particular sound, I think it's just something you can find in Soundly. It's a pretty common... I mean, I don't know. I've heard it a lot. I've had different people like show me various things that involve woman screaming, and this one is the one that keeps coming up. And I think it's because it's a really great scream. And it's unfortunate that it's the only one in there that's anything like this because it's great. But this is just how it sort of is on its own. Which is fantastic. And to go back to my point about putting vocals in this game in the first place, I kind of had to like take the Marge Simpson and the pink Chanel dress kind of approach to this, where it's like I have very few things to actually choose from in terms of what I have available that I also like. And so, you know, just doing a lot of different things with the same track over and over again, changing it around, cutting different sections out, stretching them out, changing them, all that sort of thing. And it worked out pretty well. I think I used that maybe, I think maybe one other place in the game. We'll see if that's true or not, but onward. And this one is very much in line with the train aspect. And you can tell because of the way that the track says train. I think it's just, let's see here. Just a train horn. But, you know, stretch it out, do a couple things to it, make it slower. This actually just has a pitch riser on it. Once again, the rising pitch as building towards the end of something for the stuff that I like to make happens a lot. And this one, fantastic sound. I really like this one a lot. This is, yeah, this is a pneumatic hammer. This is just regular speed here. Yeah, this is just a pneumatic hammer, sped up. Haven't really run it through much. Just got a pitch, the pitch change, you know, over time. And then Camel Crusher, which is a fantastic distortion plugin that's free. I use it a lot. It's actually really great. Just did a lot to make it super crunchy and just like over the top sounding. And this one, train tracks, big time. This is just a train drive, you know, drive by on a train with a delay, and then Camel Crusher starts in the second layer. Once again, building the intensity first part into the second part. And then we get to the flames, which are actually, this is just a series of impacts to go with her stomps. Instead of just being stomps with a reverb, this also includes flames to stick in line with everything else that's happened so far. Yeah, so without the reverb, this is pretty much what you'd expect for something with reverb versus not, but not a lot going on here either. Transient controller on the stomps to make them a little bit less harsh up front, and then just flames the rest of the way down. And then for the final part, this track up here, this wild guy, should probably be down here with the rest of them just to keep it kind of cleaner, but it's not, and that's the end of that. So this one, steam release valve, more train stuff, cash register crank just to go with the shotgun itself. Not a lot of effects on any of these, just some mostly compression, de-room, you know. OTT really just brought that to life, and that's it. This is another like sci-fi charge up kind of thing, but it's got a little bit of a pitch change on it. And then something I use all the time is the Valhalla delay has all these different modes, and this is a pitch delay, so you can change this pitch here, and every delay that hits, it goes up by the amount of semitones that you got set, which I love. And then just more mechanisms for the gun. Timing on that looks like it's a bit funky, but it doesn't matter. And so that's pretty much it for the Mechantress's phase transition.